The first storm of early summer had barely rolled past Foxwood Bay when Miriam Summers heard her doorbell. Rain still jeweled the magnolia leaves outside, trembling like secrets too shy to fall. She was 48, newly divorced, and the house felt offensively hollow, an echo chamber for unfinished sentences. She padded down the hallway in wool socks and opened the door. A stranger stood there, framed by charcoal clouds and sweet olive branches. He held an empty porcelain teacup. "Hi," he said, voice tentative yet warm. "I'm Elias, just moved next door. I promised my daughter cupcakes and realized I'm out of sugar. Could you spare some?" Cup of sugar, polite neighbor, a scene. From a sepia sitcom, yet his eyes were storm-colored and restless, as if carrying saltwater grief. "Of course," she answered, securing her robe sash. "Come in." Elias stepped across the threshold with cautious delight. Rain darkened the shoulders of his soft flannel. The fabric mapped quiet muscle. Miriam's pulse marked each detail. They wound through cardboard towers labeled New Life boxes she'd been too sentimental to unpack. In the kitchen, pale blue cabinets smelled faintly of lemon oil and hope. She scooped sugar from a canister whose painted daisies were fading, famous promises her ex once made. Their knuckles brushed when she tipped the spoon. The accidental spark raced up her arm. She withdrew, cheeks heating. "Thank you," he murmured, cradling the cup. His voice had a duskiness, like velvet rubbed the wrong way. "Is the party tonight?" she asked, searching safe ground. "Tomorrow." 13 candles, she's officially immune to parental charm. A rueful smile bent his mouth. Miriam recognized a familiar fracture behind it. Coffee while the rain lets up? She offered before caution could veto kindness. He hesitated, then nodded. "If it's no trouble." The kettle hissed and clicked alive. They spoke of pizza joints, property taxes, how Foxwood Bay smelled of jasmine after storms. Yet every trivial word felt like excavation, revealing small artifacts of loneliness. Elias curled long fingers around the mug she handed him. "Boxes. Don't talk back," he sighed. "Neither do walls," she said. Their shared ache glowed and the hushed-up thunder rattled the windows. Miriam flinched. Elias apologized for the weather, then for intruding, an absurd double apology that made her smile. A slice of low sun broke through clouds and gilded his cheekbones. Like a painter's highlight, she imagined tracing that light with a fingertip, and the daring of the thought startled her. A digital clock clicked to 6 Paul's old dinner hour. Reflexively, she brushed imaginary crumbs from the counter. Elias noticed. "Long day?" he asked. "Long decade." The confession escaped unfiltered dot he didn't pry. His silence felt like a soft jacket draped over chilled shoulders. Outside, rain thinned to silver whispers. Elias drained his cup and set it beside the sink, reverent. "I should relieve your hospitality. Still need to find plates, possibly a life." She laughed, the sound fluttering like finches startled into daylight. "You'll manage both." He lifted the sugar cup, now brimming. "I owe you. One day," she teased, "you'll repay me in reckless favors." The sentence slipped out, half daring, half prayer. His gaze held hers, startled, steady. 2 seconds stretched, and her lungs forgot their choreography. Then he stepped back, breaking the current. "Good night, Miriam." He spoke her name like a rare instrument, delicate, worthy of deliberate touch. "Good night, Elias." The latch clicked. Ella Fitzgerald had finished singing. The record spun on in soft, futile circles. Miriam leaned against the door, feeling an unfamiliar pulse, where resignation used to live, yet thrill curled with guilt's colder undertow. She had heard earlier laughter from his yard, a girl's laugh, bright and innocent. He was somebody's father, maybe somebody's almost ex, definitely somebody's vulnerability. She pressed her fingers to her lips as though to stifle a reckless smile. Outside, Elias's footsteps faded into wet gravel, a rhythm she feared she'd memorize. From the hallway mirror, she watched him cross his yard, sugar cup in hand. A girl in a yellow hoodie flung his door open and, in a blur of laughter, vanished inside with him. The sight struck her like an echo joy she could hear, but not quite. Touch. She wandered back to the kitchen, pausing at the unpacked boxes. One was labeled bedroom winter quilts. Another read photos. Do not bend. She traced the marker letters and felt time thrum beneath her fingers. A promise that stasis wasn't permanent. Lightning stitched the sky, and for a heartbeat the world looked rewired. Edges brighter, possibilities lit from underneath. Underneath? She set a different record, spinning Nina Simone this time, her piano defiantly smoky. The house absorbed the notes like thirsting earth. Miriam poured the forgotten kettle water down the sink, then refilled it for no reason other than the comfort of purpose. Tomorrow, she decided she would unpack at least one box, maybe two. And maybe, just maybe, she would bake something she could pretend to share, outside. Thunder rolled westward like applause in another room. In its hush, she became aware of her own breathing, steady, expectant. The restless half of the bed upstairs no longer felt punitive. It felt like open terrain. A small, irrational hope flickered that Elias might return claiming he'd forgotten. Cream. If not, the possibility of the knock would be enough to nudge her heart awake. She let the thought warm her quietly. Early summer rain returned the next afternoon, but the clouds felt less like sorrow and more like permission. Miriam Summers unsealed the box marked photos, do not bend, spreading snapshots across her dining table. Like pressed flowers, Paul's corporate grin, her mother's stern pearls, a Polaroid of 23-year-old Miriam, sunburned and fearless atop a Barcelona hostel roof. She sorted memories keep, unsure, let go combing tangles from her own timeline. Knuckles rapped the door, not the bell, 3 light taps that carried urgency. She straightened, smoothed her linen blouse, and opened. Elias stood barefoot on the porch, suit trousers rolled to spare them puddles, rain-dark curls clinging to his forehead. In his hands, a chipped ceramic bowl crowned with pastel-frosted cupcakes. Payment, he said, breathless. Strawberry vanilla, my daughter's decree. Come in before they melt. She stepped aside. Something restless traveled with him, as if he'd run here to outrun a thought. Inside, lamplight warmed the pale blue kitchen. Elias paused at the dining table, studying the photo-littered landscape. He pointed to young Miriam on that rooftop. She looks like she's about to dare the sky. She did, Miriam answered, surprised by the tremor in her own voice. Silence swelled, charged and tender. He set the cupcakes gently beside the photos. May I intrude longer? I could use a distraction. She led him to the denim blue sofa amid cardboard peaks. Rain drummed a steady heartbeat on the roof. Allison, my ex, texted, he began, voice raw. She's moving to Seattle next month. With Chloe. I'll get Summers, maybe. Pain flickered in his storm gray eyes. Miriam felt it strike her ribs like a tuning fork. That's brutal. She says it's a fresh slate. Maybe she's right. He rubbed the back of his neck. Truth is, that house next door feels like rehearsing absence. I rehearse it daily, Miriam confessed. His gaze lifted, reckless honesty awakening. I also came because you've been in my head. I kept picturing you unpacking, humming, brave enough to create small order. It steadied me. Heat blossomed under her skin, tinged with dangerous sweetness. She cleared her throat. I was telling my younger self she survived. Tell her she's still dazzling, he whispered, thought the compliment landed like silk on raw skin. She produced a cupcake, handing it to him. Icing kissed his lip. He licked it away. Her pulse stuttered. A dangerous tenderness hovered, daring to be named. Lightning flashed. Power blinked out, plunging the room into dim electric blue. Wind slapped rain against siding. breaker, Miriam muttered, moving to the hallway. Elias followed with his phone's flashlight. She reset the switch. Lights flared back, but they were inches apart now, pulse and counterpulse. The beam lit her face. "Your eyes are lighter than I thought," he murmured. "It's the fear of electrocution," she joked, but her breath betrayed her. Footsteps outside. Chloe's voice. "Dad?" Elias stepped back as if gravity reclaimed him. "I should go." Miriam nodded, masking the tug in her gut. He retrieved the cupcake bowl. Their fingers brushed deliberate, charged. Then he vanished into Rain Dot. She leaned against the closed door, a sob of craving caged behind her teeth. That night she dreamed of red thread mazes leading always to Elias, offering sugar that crystallized their lips together. She woke breathless, sheets tangled days past polite waves across hedges, distance maintained. Each evening Miriam walked. Foxwood Bay's shoreline, letting salt air scrub restlessness. On the fourth night, the town held its Pure Lights Festival. Lanterns bobbed on water like patient stars. Miriam almost stayed home, but emptiness drove her out. She wore a teal linen dress, hair loose, and bought a lantern. Someone stepped beside her. Elias navy Henley, jeans, eyes gleaming with lantern light. Chloe clung to his elbow, cheeks caramel sticky. "Miss Summers," she chirped. "Dad says you saved my birthday." The girl slipped a shell bracelet onto Miriam's wrist. "For luck." Emotion clogged Miriam's throat. "It's beautiful. Thank you." Chloe dashed off to friends, leaving. Her father in a swirl of music and sparks. They strolled the pier, neon reflecting on wet planks. At the railing's end, shoulders almost touching, they watched wishes drift away. "I told Allison I'd consider Seattle," Elias said. "But work's here. And part of me thinks Chloe needs roots, not relocation, truth. I'm terrified of the quiet after she's gone." "Quiet can be loud," Miriam answered. "It can convince you you're not worthy of sound." He faced her, sorrow molten with something hotter. Summer wind carried her perfume. He inhaled as if memorizing it. "Do you ever think if timing were different, we'd give ourselves permission?" She finished. Her voice was a thunder-stitched whisper. "Yes." His answer vibrated with longing. A wave smacked the pier, spraying them. She laughed. He brushed drops from her cheek. His hand lingered, tucked a soaked strand behind her ear. Her eyes fluttered. "Miriam." Her name, a husky plea. "This pier's crowded," she murmured, voice trembling with contradiction. "Let me walk you home." He said, the words wearing two meanings. She tasted the yes on her tongue, yet pictured Chloe's innocence. "If we cross lines tonight, regret will tail us for miles." He lowered his hand, respect warring with hunger. "Tell me to stop wanting this, and I will." Lightning forked distant clouds. Thunder rolled judgment. She inhaled damp salt, distant fireworks. "I can't tell you that," she confessed, "because I want it to." Relief and ache lit his face. The moment primed for combustion. Music swelled the lantern release countdown. Chloe's laugh rang from shore. Miriam pressed the shell bracelet to her heart. "She's watching," she whispered, though Chloe wasn't near. Elias nodded. Hands slid into pockets as if restraining them. "Tomorrow daylight, coffee, no." "Thunderstorms?" 9, she offered. 8:30, he insisted, small grin flickering. "Thank you for not telling me to stop." "And you for asking." They walked back ethical inches between them. At the gate, Chloe rejoined her father, hugging Miriam goodnight. The bracelet jingled like a promise. Later, Miriam placed it by her bed beside a photo of the rooftop girl. Shells shone like tiny moons. She traced them, remembering Elias's hand on her cheek. The memory pulsed, forbidden and warm. Wind rattled shutters. The night whispered yes. At 1:36 a.m. she rose, spread a freshly unboxed quilt over the bed, a beginning disguised as linen. Finally, dreams found her where choices remained unwritten. Morning feathered the curtains, pale and promising. At 8:29. Footsteps climbed her porch. The knock came a minute early. Miriam opened the door on a breath. She did not realize she was holding. Elias stood there, freshly shaved, hair still damp from a hurried shower, a brown paper bag cradled against his chest. Blueberry. Scones, he announced, shyly triumphant. Figured we'd need more than caffeine. The living room smelled of sandalwood and lemon polish. Morning light crawled across unpacked boxes like a gentle ultimatum. Decide what stays. They sat at the small round table by the kitchen window. Beyond the glass, hydrangeas tilted their heads after the night's rain. Elias traced a finger around. His mug, Chloe's sleeping in. After last night, she's convinced Foxwood Bay is Narnia. Miriam smiled, but her stomach fluttered. She slid the photo of rooftop girl across the table. That was me at 23. I believed proximity to the sky meant immunity to consequences. He studied the image, then her, as if overlaying past and present. She's still there, he said, voice thick, just wearing wiser eyes. The kettle clicked off. When she rose to pour, he rose too, a mirror of intent. Steam curled between them like a guard that had fallen asleep on duty. His hand covered hers on the ceramic handle. Miriam, just her name tremulous, devout, and one plea away from surrender. She set the kettle down. Fingers brushed his wrist, pulse firing. They drifted together, guided by some authority older than restraint. The first kiss was featherlight, a question flung into silence. The second was an answer slow, certain, tasting of scone crumbs and possibility. When they broke, both were. Trembling, I haven't felt this alive in years, she whispered. Nor I, he admitted, foreheads touching. But there's a cost to alchemy. The phone on the counter vibrated, slicing the hush. Elias glanced at the screen. Allison. A sigh fled him. She never calls this early unless, he swiped. Hey, what now? But his shoulders tightened. Miriam stepped back. Wrapping arms around herself as cold air rushed in, he ended the call. Allison's mother was admitted to hospital. She flies out tonight. She wants Chloe with her, needs me to bring her to the airport by 3. Concern crowded desire. Of course, family first. Family, he echoed, torn. I should never have come this morning. You should have, she countered, voice steady despite the quake inside. Because it was real. His eyes glistened. He reached into the paper bag, retrieved the last scone, and placed it on the table. For later, he said, when you wonder if this happened. He hesitated, then added, Seattle may last a year, or forever. I don't know. She forced a brave smile. Go, be Chloe's anchor. He cupped her cheek, kissed her once a pressed flower kiss meant to survive between pages. Then he left, footfalls fading down the hall that still smelled of sandalwood, and surrendered. By noon rain. Returned, soft but unrelenting. A moving van idled next door. 2 men loaded boxes marked kitchen and books. Through the gauzy curtain, Miriam saw Elias orchestrating the chaos. Umbrella forgotten at his feet, hair plastered dark. He looked up as if her gaze were a spotlight, and lifted a hand that was half greeting, half goodbye. She answered with both palms on glass, heart thudding against fate's barricade. An hour later, the van rolled away. The house beside hers became a sealed envelope whose message she would never read. Evening draped Foxwood Bay in copper and lilac. Miriam stood at her counter, the single scone on a plate before her, untouched. Beside it lay an envelope she had found slipped through her mail slot, the porcelain sugar cup drawn in ink on the front. Inside, a note. I borrowed sweetness and found far more. If circumstances change, I'll be back for the rest. Tears welled. A salty acceptance. She folded the note, tucked it into the sugar canister where the daisies were fading. Then she greased a pan, measured flour, cracked eggs. Cupcakes rose beneath the oven light, domes swelling like small brave hearts. She frosted them pale pink strawberry, Chloe's favorite, and lined them on the windowsill to cool dot outside. Dusk fireflies drifted. Mirroring street lamps, she carried 2 cupcakes to the porch, set them on the rail between the houses, an offering. To absence. Tomorrow children would race bikes past, and maybe one would pocket the sweetness, unaware of the story baked inside. Miriam sank into the porch chair, a cold around her shoulders. Wind carried ocean salt and faint guitars from town square. She closed her eyes and imagined Seattle rain on warehouse roofs. Imagined Elias reading bedtime stories, his voice steady because she had studied him. Regret curled under her ribs. But it was a living thing, not the sterile ache of her marriage. It reminded her that her heart, though bruised, still pulsed with appetites dot above. The first star winked undaring, insistent. She whispered a thank you tonight for giving her back her own name, spoken like an instrument. Tomorrow she would unpack the last box, hammer a nail, hang the photo of her rooftop self where morning light would kiss it. One day, maybe footsteps would echo on her porch again, a man asking for sugar or directions or simply connection. She would be ready, not rehearsing absence but performing presence. For now she bit into the lone scone. Blueberries burst against her tongue, sweet and tart, and the taste lingered a quiet thunder within, inside her chest dot and somewhere on the other side of the country. Perhaps a man named Elias tasted the ghost of that same sweetness and remembered the woman who had once taken his breath with nothing more than kindness and a kiss. The night pressed close, a velvet curtain after a show. Miriam raised the porch light, her small lighthouse, and left it burning, just in case storms ever carried him home.